Coming to you from Strings and Things Studio in Ventura, California, I'm Karin.
I'm Kaity.
I'm Ann.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Pretty good. I feel like October is running away from me, but other than that, I'm good.
It might as well be December, right?
I'm so glad I did a bunch of Christmas making early on because it is definitely reducing my stress a little bit.
Yeah, I wish
I was good this year.
My stress level is going really high. Yeah. So, anyway.
I mean, we love this time of year, but welcome to anxiety time.
Yes, exactly. If it were cool and cozy outside, I'd feel better about it, but it's not yet. So
yeah.
85 at my house, except at night. It does cool down.
I was cold last night, which was nice.
It was refreshing to be able to snuggle under some more layers.
I had to get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. It was like 1 o'clock, and I got back into bed, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm cold."
Today I was very much like a toddler.
Okay.
I like to take a nap at my lunch break, especially if I need it, and today I needed it. But there wasn't a shady spot to park in. So I like maneuvered a comfortable temperature, but the sun worked its way in, and I kind of, like a hot toddler who wakes up from a nap, it just wasn't good enough.
You're all red and sweaty.
Yes, I was like a hot, grumpy toddler.
You have like a lollipop stuck to your face.
It felt like that. It was nice, but it was not refreshing.
Did I share that? I think I shared with both of you that I don't know if I think it was a TikTok originally, but of the little kid.
I've had a bad day.
That was so I worked really hard and I'm cranky and I'm tired.
I need to get uncranky or something.
He goes, so you don't want me to mess with you? No, because I'm cranky and I'm tired. Well, you don't want to wrestle later? Well, maybe. But first, I gotta stop being cranky and tired. Yeah, that was me all week.
I like that, kiddo.
I love that. That just scrubbed in my week so much. So I forget the format because usually it's been a while since I
say what we're working on.
Yeah, what are we working on?
What are we stitching?
I'm gonna get in my hands. So while I get in my hands, someone else can one's crocheting and one's knitting.
I'm making a patch, which is a Norigoan pattern from Knit Fold Repeat. And it's a modular square, so I talked about it on our regular podcast. And it's very good, like, reading knitting.
Well, that's cool.
If you can balance your book open.
Yeah. I am crocheting a chunky beanie out of some woolies, thick and quick.
It's a nice color.
Like
neutral, but not boring.
Yeah, it's got, like, some browns and some almost, like, bluish slate kind of gray to it. It's nice. Karin?
I am currently regretting throwing more than one project in my bag.
Oops.
Always a bad idea.
Karin is playing Untangle.
Okay. Well, I had 2 projects, but I'm going to take out the one that has Tunisian crochet, so we have a little bit of everything represented as far as the yarning stuff goes. There's other things like crewel embroidery I could be doing, but I am working on Flip Dana. I'm really excited.
Well, when you are the kind of MC, it's your book, it's hard to actually work on the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I know.
There's always good intentions to be like, I get to knit while we talk, and then it's I gotta, I'm in charge here.
So, y'all can't see this picture, but this is really, so I like her, it's like 2 triangles, but they're sewn along the top edge, and then I like her, she, instead of just being like a cowl, she likes the idea of it's a cowl, so it is sewn together, but it's more in a bandana style because she said that she doesn't like to have so much bulk in the back of her neck. And I thought, well, that's actually pretty smart. So I like it, but it's like it's making a really nice fabric. I'm slipping half the stitches. I'm only actually working half the stitches at a time. Nice. I'm switching between 2 colors, so it almost has this houndstooth plaid looking thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
And I went neon because I actually was really good and went through my stash.
Nice.
I have a lot of ample stash, so that was easy. One is a gradient of like minty green into bright lime, kind of these neons into like this orange sherbet color. And it's paired with a speckle that has like neon speckles.
Nice.
Someone else had asked
Very
me
cute.
if this was Holy Festival. I said, no, it's not. It's not Macintosh.
Hmm.
These are both from Teal Torch Knits.
Thanks.
So,
Cool.
It
Right
kind
now-
of has a Holy Festival vibe, but I bet you can trust its color fastness better.
yeah. And I only really remember, what was the single ply that Lois had? The-
Tosh Merino Light.
Tosh Merino Light, yeah. So, which, this is like a soft yarn weight.
Mhm.
But it still has a great squish. And we just had to go with the neon because, like, I've had this yarn, and I had to stop myself from buying. Every time she posts something, I'm like, more. No, I've cut myself off until I start using some of what I've got. I've got these neon rainbows in so many forms, but not bad. I mean, I've got about 6 inches worth. I just started a few days ago, so it was
Nice.
quick.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So anyway, so now I'll set that aside so I can moderate. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I can ask you guys questions.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just never find myself being as productive as I thought I might be
No.
when I sit down. But isn't that the truth of everything?
Every night I have best intentions to be like, okay, we're going to eat dinner. I'm going to sit down and then I'm going to work on something and then we'll watch a movie or something.
I'm gonna
And then I
bang this out
just,
and get so much
I just stare off into space for a little while.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway, what
Anyway.
did we read this month, Karin?
This month we read a book that was originally written in, I think, 1958 by Shirley Jackson called The Sundial. Now, we have read one of her other books, We Have Always Lived in This Castle. And I actually got connected to this because the foreword was by Victor Laval, or I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think so too.
And I have one of his new books that I'd read, and so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get all the books from him. If you're a fan of The Changeling, he wrote, I believe he is
I
the
think that's right.
author of The Changeling, and I'm trying not to read faster than the episodes. So they have episodes on Apple TV.
I would never restrain myself that way.
Well, you kind of have to because they only do one a week, so you can't binge.
No, binge the book. I would binge the book.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I have a lot of.
Tell me
episodes
the
already.
ending.
No.
I mean, don't tell me the ending. I hate spoilers. But I want the book to tell me the ending.
So I like this was, well, before I tell you what I think, what are your thoughts? Because you might not feel the same.
Do you want to do the, synopsis?
Synopsis? Sure. I always end up telling too much, so hopefully,
I mean, you could just
Okay.
do the back of the book thing,
There
too.
is not too much to be told. Like, you can't tell too much. We are guilty of spoilers.
Yeah, we
If you
talked
tuned
about that.
in and you finished the book, right?
Yeah, you know we're going to spoil it.
So, okay, so here's it. What is this world in giant quotations? When the Halloran clan gathers at the family home for a funeral, no one is surprised to see peculiar Aunt Fanny wander off into the garden. But she returns reporting an astonishing vision. Her late father has appeared to her and given her the exact day of an imminent apocalypse, from which only the Hallorans and their hangers-on will be spared. Soon the family is engulfed in growing madness, fear, and violence. Lost in mechanizations and belief in a coming paradise, they prepare for the terrible storm that they are sure will bring this new world, beautiful, and for them alone.
That is a bad synopsis, which is not a judgment on you.
It
Sarah.
really is.
I mean, there's just so much more to this.
That's
but-
not how they find the exact date.
Well, he doesn't really give them the exact date.
No.
He tells them something's going
It's
to
coming.
happen.
Gather in the house and you'll all be protected.
Yes, I
They
will protect
deduce
you in
the-
this house.
the date.
There's a whole lot of problems with this future scenario of everything being perfect, but not letting the servants in. So I don't know how these people are going to do.
Right, they were going to cannibalize themselves for the servant class. Can you believe nobody made my bed this morning?
I know, I love-
That's one of my favorites.
Oh my god.
Where's my oatmeal? They make my oatmeal.
Well, you see that now. Then you were going to ask us what we thought of the book.
Yes.
I liked it. I thought it was Shirley, you did it again. You know? Then I realized it was published in 1958, so maybe one of her earlier works.
Mm.
But yes, Shirley, you took us for another crazy ride.
I hated this book.
I
It was such a struggle for me to finish it. I
It was a
hated every
short
second
audible.
of it.
It was a short audible, though.
Okay,
But it
no,
wasn't.
It was
you
8
you
hours.
you pointed it out that it was going to be short. I was thinking like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
It was like 8.5. And I'm like,
it's like a short story.
are we done with this
To
freaking
me,
book yet? Oh my god, I hated it.
It's granted, it's half of a Court of Thorns and Roses. But,
Yes, but too much.
Okay, I hated the people.
Yeah, I didn't like any of the people.
No, I
Well,
wanted them all to burn.
Did I like anyone?
No.
I'm thinking about it.
Keep thinking.
Here's
keep
my
thinking.
problem.
No,
Yes.
I didn't like anyone.
The book, I think...
Not even the nurse, because she read the book flat.
Yeah.
I want to hear what Katie has to say.
I think that some books are like plot driven and some books are like character driven. There wasn't a whole lot in the way of plot for this book.
Mm-mm.
Not a whole lot happens, and I hated every single person in the book.
Yes.
So I'm like, when will they stop talking? Oh my god! I hated it. I'm sorry. It was just, maybe I'm dumb, but I don't get it.
You're dumb.
I don't get it.
No,
There
there's
were
a lot of open-ended questions.
There
in this
were
book.
there was a lot of things that were not clear.
I'm like, what is happening?
was
Who
it-
are
was
these
it-
people?
Okay, was there really an apocalypse, or was
I
it
don't
just
know.
a really bad storm? And they'll never know because they've boarded themselves up.
No,
and
no,
the rest
no,
of the
no,
world could go on.
We will never know.
We will never know.
If
They
it
plan
was,
to go outside in the morning.
yeah, if it was a really bad storm, how did they? Then they deduce the exact day that it would be, right? So it's like, okay, well maybe it is the apocalypse, and if that's the case, then they're screwed.
So I was
Right?
I'm trying to figure. Okay, so I was trying to look up list of characters because there are a lot of people.
Oh my gosh,
in this
there's so
book.
many people in this book.
And
There are too many characters in this book.
yeah, it was confusing. I mean, we had Aunt Fanny, we had the precocious little girl, and her mom who was mourning away
Fancy and
Mary
Mary Jane.
and Mary Jane, and
It's the young women that started to get a little confusing for me, but
Yes.
I eventually was able to keep them straight.
'Cause
Mrs.
then there's-
Willow with
there's the
Julia and Arabella,
and then there's Gloria, is the
arrived
cousin
on
or
her
whatever.
own.
And then
Okay.
there's
but the key there's so the book does open up with the idea that with the funeral we talked about. There's a funeral. There's the matriarch of the family and her sister-in-law, Aunt Fanny, who's not her blood sister but her sister-in-law, and is it the matriarch's husband that's kind of infirmed in that?
Yes.
Okay, kind of firmed and not all there. She's a little older, but there's this thing where the funeral, the guy who's died is her
Lionel,
son,
yeah.
Lionel, who he only shows up because it's his funeral, and his grieving widow believes that his own mother pushed him down the stairs.
I think that's an interesting symmetry in the book.
mm-hmm.
Is I think everyone knows that she pushed him down the stairs.
Yeah.
Do you think she really did?
Yeah, I don't know
think it was
why.
clear. They never really they hint at it and then they move
She
on.
never owns up to it.
But she never says, "Oh my god, I would never push my own son down
Right,
the
she
stairs."
never
She
denies
doesn't-
it.
no.
Yeah.
And people talk about killing each other all the time in this book.
Yeah.
Like it could have been Fancy. She wants to kill her
Fancy-
grandmother.
Fancy's
I
kind of an
think
evil little
Fancy
girl.
did.
I think Fancy
It was
killed her
Fancy.
grandma. Yeah.
Because I was trying to listen to it a second time this morning, or today. And I was picking up on a lot of clues that lead us to Fancy.
Yeah.
Like, someone stabs a hat pin into Mrs. O'Halloran's,
Her portrait.
her portrait.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on the Sundial, they find a little doll that is been,
Like a little voodoo doll.
yeah, that one of Fancy's play dolls that has been pushed through with pins.
I can trust it.
And I mean, Mrs. Halloran told Fancy that she could have the crown when she was dead.
Yeah. Said everything was going to be Fancy's when she was gone. I was excited that Mrs. Halloran died because
Yeah.
she was the worst.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I like that part of the
Yeah.
book. I like that
I
ending.
thought she was bad in the beginning, but it gets worse. She gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, the whole party at the end of the world with her crown.
The only character I kind of liked was Aunt Fanny. Like, I was on her team most of the time.
Team Aunt Fanny.
Yeah.
I can see
Like,
that.
I want to be the eccentric aunt that, like, wanders off in the middle of a party and has a vision, right? Like, that sounds fun. But of all of the characters, she was the one that I maybe hated the least.
I liked Essex.
I
He
hate
liked to
Essex.
stir.
Oh my
He
god.
liked to stir the pot.
It might have been that I was. Did
What
you listen
exactly
to it or
was
read it?
I
What
listened.
exactly was his
His,
role? Did he have something a little something going on with old grandma?
The
He
narrator
was-
for Essex and the voice that she does a great job
Yeah.
in this book, but he was so obnoxious.
Well,
He
yeah.
was, absolutely.
But I think, like, I really liked his shit stirring at the end when he
Yes.
starts telling
I like
stories
that.
about Sogolby and about Fanny. Okay, the age of the women.
Mhm.
So, you called the old grandma?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
she
I
was
don't
like,
really feel like she's that old. She's
No.
grandma, but she's not really.
she says at some point she's like 48 or something.
Well, that's
What?
what Fanny says. And because when she's knocking on Essex's door at night, she says, I'm only 48.
yeah. Yeah, I was trying to do math, and I think in that day you probably started your families relatively young.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're more than 50.
Right. Right. Like, Richard could be... No, because Fanny is the older sister, I think.
Yeah.
So Richard can't... But he's, like...
He's, like,
What has
decrepit.
happened
Yeah.
to him? That did she push him down the stairs and it didn't work out? Maybe that's what happened. Because
Yeah, maybe he was
why?
poisoned. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe.
I don't know why.
Like, right near the start, she's like, yeah, I married you for your money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, obviously. It's all about the house.
Yeah.
Gotta have something. Okay, so I'm trying to go through like good old Wikipedia. They have a little bit more information here. Too many of the book clubs just really didn't talk about much of anything unless you did a deep dive, and I just didn't want to do a deep dive.
I appreciated, and I don't like forwards. I purposefully skipped it because I was going to read this.
Normally I do, but I think I didn't this time.
You like forwards or you don't?
I like forwards sometimes. It
I
depends.
feel like they're
I like
spoilers.
the forwards to be short.
But usually they reference something that then I'm waiting for. So I listened to Victor's full forward at the end of the book. And I liked how he described, didn't this book make you laugh sometimes?
Oh yeah, I thought. What did we think of Mrs. Willow and her daughters?
Her gals.
Gals.
Her gals.
And I love how they would say, just say it right. Don't say gals.
Well, I think that exchange was like a very
Was she really an old friend, or was she being blackmailed? I think
she's an old friend. She's an old friend who knows Mrs. Halloran's quality. You know, like Fanny doesn't. She doesn't like pussyfoot around, but
she's there for more.
Mrs. Halloran is a lower class person, but
Mrs.
she's in
Mary.
Mrs. Halloran.
No.
Yeah.
Mrs.
Fanny is always telling Oriana
Yeah.
that she is low class.
Yes.
But Oriana.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I was confused.
Oriana completely ignores her.
Yes.
She never ever responds back to any of that.
No.
She just walks right past it. But Mrs. Willow, I think, is there. I think she is an old friend. I think she knows her history. You know?
I feel like
that doesn't mean
she was someone that she knew in college, and for whatever reason, Mrs. Oriana invites her. But once they're there, she's like, "You're gonna have to pay me to go away."
I don't know.
Actually, don't know if she was invited. Was she invited?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
she
she
was.
says my old friend's coming
Old
tomorrow
friend.
or whatever.
It says here she arrives with the two daughters, Julia
Yes.
and Arabella. All three women seem intent on winning their way into the Halloran's money, but become frightened when they hear the coming instruction and refuse to be sent away. Only a few days after, another young woman named Gloria, and I don't really understand the point of why Gloria is there.
There's a lot of characters that I don't understand the point of them
I
being
think
there.
Gloria makes her. I mean, I don't know that this justifies her presence, but as soon in the scene that Gloria appears in is exactly the time that Mrs. Willow is talking about, seeing the future and
in
prognosticating.
the oil-coated mirror, a parlor game from her adolescent years. Yeah.
Yeah. So they say a key piece of that is having a virgin.
Yeah.
They say, I think nominating someone will just become lowbrow humor here. And then Gloria just says, okay, I'll look. I mean, she is only 17, so
yeah,
yay. But which Gloria's corruption is an interesting. I think that's an interesting thing because she says she's a virgin without we are told she is a virgin from her successful supposed visions,
mm-hmm.
and then she sees Essex naked.
Right.
when he's hunting in one of the visions. And then somewhere in there, she and Essex just become an item, which is ew.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not quite twice her age, but
Well,
it's
but
half
she's
plus
17.
8.
And then the
I
random
was hoping she
stranger from the
turned
village.
18.
Sure.
Because several months go by.
But then the last visitor is just some rando from the village.
The captain.
The captain. You know,
Scarabombardon.
Yeah.
it's not. It's 100% insinuated that he is very handsome. He is a handsome man.
Yeah.
And they scooped him up because he is a handsome man for breeding stock.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Because, you know, if you're going to be forever and these are your choices, you might want to include one or two better looking guys.
I think that it is gently put to answer your question that Essex is Oriana's side piece. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the librarian or something.
Yeah.
In air quotes.
Right.
And then they burn his library.
Yeah.
And then he has no reason to be there except, you know,
Breeding stock.
breeding stock.
Basically.
Of a sort. Okay, we talked about the different. There's a whole lot. So many characters, it is difficult to keep track of where. You're right, there's no real plot other than it's. World's going to come to an end, sort of. Maybe. And, but I don't know. I thought the characters I got more and more disgusted with them and their selfishness and their. I mean, I kept asking myself, now these people are not used to doing things for themselves, and they're going to have this great big party, and Oriana's going to look like a hero, giving them a holiday to go home and be with their families, where she thinks they're going to die. But she doesn't tell them that. And she has this great big party, so everyone will say how wonderful she is before they go home and die. And I still don't quite get how, since I'm not one who necessarily believes in looking in mirrors and getting visions, and I'm like, how do we know that was really real?
You don't.
I think that's the point.
Yeah. Except it does fulfill itself.
Right.
On August 30th.
But how do we know that that's not the stormy season?
But okay, so that would mean
was on the day she said.
That would mean
was
that Gloria is the one that looked in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
She says to everybody, either she knows that Oriana's going to die or she's going to kill her, because she says, I never saw her in the future. Like, she wasn't there.
Right.
So either she did see in the mirror and knew it was going to happen, or she was insinuating, like, I think somebody should kill this bitch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Right.
And somehow her father is connected to Oriana, because she didn't go there of her own goodwill.
It was like a
Their
family friend or a
cousins,
cousin or something. Yeah.
So
And she's
it
like,
was-
oh, oops, forgot to tell my dad. Bye. You're
Yeah.
going to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
we talked about so there was, they had a couple of dissenters in the group. There was Julia, who who decides, I'm going to take my chances out there. I don't want to be stuck for eternity with these crazy people. And
Poor girl
then
didn't make it very far.
It says a less obvious dissenter is, because
I'm going to get you with the dirtiest rapist in town.
Yeah. I'm going to hire
Is-
the creepiest guy.
Then there's Fancy. Fancy, a spoiled and frightening child. Fancy represents the idea that the world will be destroyed before she has a chance to live in it, which is actually really sad. And plays obsessively with her dollhouse, taking as much delight in ordering her dolls about as Oriana takes in lording over the residence. So she's taken her grandmother's promises of inheritance to heart and claims that she'll smash the dollhouse if it just has a place. When her grandmother dies, because she won't need it anymore, because she'll own the whole house. It'll be like a giant. So what do you guys think about do you think that there was some deeper meaning in this book that was maybe just lost and over my head? I mean, it might
Deeper meaning? I think it could be read several ways. Yeah, like I think it is very allegorical. But it's also like the story of this insane small town family imploding on itself.
Right.
absolutely.
I was trying to understand. I guess they all live in their own delusions, right? Because I was trying to understand Halloran's buy-in to Fanny's story.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
She's all about control and authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it because it's so attractive to her that these will be her subjects, that she thinks she can maintain control and authority on the other side?
Yeah, I don't understand why everybody believes Fanny so quickly and without any sort of doubt. I mean, some people do have doubts, but Oriana's like, okay, cool, well, that must be happening. Let me give away all my money. Let me burn a bunch of books. Let me, do all of these really extremely detrimental things that would be horrible if this doesn't happen, right? Like, set yourself up as, like, the queen in front of all of your friends and family and neighbors and everything. And then what do you do the next day when the apocalypse doesn't happen, right? So she obviously believes it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't get why.
And I kind of feel like she gave Aunt Fanny free reign over the Amazon account.
Yeah.
I see trucks and trucks of Amazon trucks coming to their house every day, bringing in so many boxes, because Fanny's thinking ahead. I mean, she's the only one really planning on, like, okay, we're going to need food. She thinks about all these conveniences they're going to need, except for people. And that's, to me, it's like, you're going to look at this world that I'm like, if the apocalypse really happens, it's not like over in a day. You're going to live for years in a lot of ugliness. The world's not going to be like this beautiful garden like you think. I mean, it's not like this magical dome over their property, or from the wall to wall, right? Over their house.
Well, I think that no one knows what the method of destruction will be, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that this is also another symbol for, like, the fear of nuclear war. Because when she and Fanny are talking about, like, I hope it's over quickly for them. I hope it's over. Like, I don't think they'll be in pain in a flash, but it, like, to me, it felt like they were saying something along those lines. And so, like, 1958 is the heart of that.
When
fear.
When was the Cuban Missile Crisis?
That's a good question.
Because I'm wondering
60 something.
Oh, so this predates that. Okay,
I think.
Yeah, 1962.
I was gonna say 62. I should have said it. I do think that this book is in its most basic form is like. It's an allegory, commentary on, like, rich people and their delusions, right? Yeah. So it's like, if you have money, if you have inherited wealth, if you have generational wealth, like, you don't have to be too focused on, like, real life situations. And these people get so carried away with their delusions so quickly that it's like, that you could be convinced of a lot of things if there's money involved. So it's like, Essex is a hanger-on to this family. He knows that these people are going to provide for him. So even if the apocalypse does or doesn't happen, like, it's probably not a bad idea.
A crime scene,
right?
No matter what. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could take it to everybody's house, though. Like,
sure.
Where we all kind of, create our own little cocoon against what is happening in the world. Like, it's so easy to protect yourself from the wind blowing outside. Mm-hmm. Like, especially in the last few years, and like right now, atrocities happening in Israel and Gaza. Like, well, I don't need, like, I can just shut myself.
I don't want to think about that right now. I'm going to watch a funny movie instead.
So there's an interesting,
I can nail blankets over my windows too.
There's an interesting thing about Shirley Jackson, the author. So she wrote this in 58, and she wrote We Have Always Lived in the Castle in 62. And both books have this theme of people being stuck up in their house.
Yep.
She suffered from agoraphobia. Right after the publishing of We Have Always Lived in the Castle, she suffered a nervous breakdown and a prolonged bout of acute agoraphobia, keeping her from even going outside for half a year. So I almost wonder if this kind of fear and sensitivity was already a part of her subconscious.
Probably.
It found its way, and it's, this was right. Because she kind of wrote that theme into both of these books.
Yeah, I mean, you write about what you know. The delusions of the the people living in the big house, right? Like it reminds me of like Grey Gardens,
Yeah.
you know, where you can get taken away by your fantasies to be like, well, someday I'll leave this place and, you know, I'll be a famous dancer on Broadway, or, you know, the world's going to end, but we're all going to be in charge and I'm going to be the queen, or I'm going to push my grandma down the stairs and then I'm going to inherit this whole house, which is the most realistic of all of the
that really
of the
happened.
delusions that can happen.
We know that one happened.
And we haven't really even touched on the fact that Oriana pushed her own son down the stairs.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, that's the way the book opens, and yeah.
But, like, and there's the symmetry is that these people don't care.
No!
Like,
Nobody's offended by it!
No, they lightly, like, I wonder who did it.
Mary Jane's like, oh, she must have pushed my husband down the stairs. Yeah. Well, now I have asthma. It's like, that's all? That's it? Okay.
So someone wrote in an article that Shirley Jackson's, that this book points to several instances of confining narcissism on the part of the novel's primary characters. There's a quote that Stephen King, in one of his books, summarized this concept as a growing obsession with one's own problems, a turning inward instead of growing outward. And throughout the novel, most of the characters' conversations really are competing monologues with no one listening.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Moreover, both Oriana and Aunt Fanny attempt to manipulate the other adults in the same way that Fancy controls her dolls. So she's like, Fancy's really a product of her family. I mean, there's a genetic or a nurture
versus nature.
They're both
She's getting it from both ends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one particular scene I can think of that was particularly annoying, of everybody talking all at once about 5 different conversations and nobody's listening to each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a bridge game going with 5 different conversations. And then one of the girls is talking about a movie plot to someone who's not really listening.
Yep.
I feel like while I enjoyed parts of the book and other parts just I'm like, because these characters are horrible and I don't care if they all die. I kind of wish the house wouldn't seal up and they would all be subject to whatever's going to happen. But I wish I could see this like in a very short film.
Right. I sort of think it would be interesting.
This would be more funny visually. I mean,
I think it could feel like a fever dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I think, one of the problems that I had with this book is I really wanted to see these people get their comeuppance, right? And we don't know what happens the next day. Like, I want them to open the door and everything to be fine and be like, well, shit, we really screwed the pooch on this one, right?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. They open the door and it actually did happen. And now they're going to be stuck with each other forever.
Yeah.
And they're already on each other's nerves.
Yep.
That's what like I just wanted to shake them and go, and I wanted to be at the house and go, do you not hear yourselves? Let's just examine the scenario where you are all stuck with each other for eternity.
Yeah.
Is this really? I'm like Gloria. I want to take my chances out there.
I would have kept walking.
I know.
But at 17, maybe not, or 18, or maybe
it was Julia.
Julia.
Oh, Julia. Oh, yeah.
And Julia is not old either, but she's in her 20s.
That's right.
She's too old to learn any new dances.
I know.
Oh gosh.
Like, what's that?
What does that mean?
I think the dialogue in this is pretty snappy.
I want to read this.
Okay, so Terry Hatcher is Mrs. Halloran.
Terry Hatcher. Okay.
Yeah.
Or Michelle Pfeiffer, but I think Michelle's maybe a little too old.
Terry Hatcher's got that like a little bit of edge where she could be scary if she wanted to
She can be scary or funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Michelle Pfeiffer as being particularly funny.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not how she's usually cast, which is fair.
Yeah, but she could be.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of other casts.
I didn't think about this.
But I kept picturing Terry Hatcher as Mrs. Halloran.
I like this quote. So they start toward the end.
It would be so funny. It could be, except he's way too healthy. It could be, I can't think of his name.
Okay.
From Lewis and Clark.
Yeah. Let me Google it.
Dean Cain.
There you go.
Dean Cain is Richard Collins.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And Terry Hatcher is, this is insane now. So it seems appropriate.
Dean Cain.
What do you guys think about that quote that was nailed up there? When shall we live if not now?
There were a lot of quotes in this book, weren't
There's a lot
there?
of quotes.
I didn't. I mean, I don't know.
that was a saying that they actually had up in the house.
It was a little startling at first because they bring it up right away the first time you enter the foyer. So I was like, "What? Who has that?"
Yeah.
But then by the end of the book, it's like, well, yeah.
He had like live, laugh, love posters all over his house.
Well, yeah, that's like I think this house is probably like not. It's so much that it's not pretty.
No, it's not. It's
like
not nice.
Too much.
Yes, it's like when people get too much money and they can do what you know.
This is like a dark comedy. Like these people.
Can I ask what? Why is it called the Sundial? What is the sundial? What's the point of the sundial?
Totally get it. So, like, I've been trying to gather those things in the second listen. So, the sundial, she sees it in the oil mirror. But then she says, no, it's not the sundial. It's just a white rock. And then Mrs. Willow is like, oh, a tryst place.
Mm-hmm.
So, does it mean something about connecting to the bigger worlds?
There is
and the remaking of worlds?
It had something to do with, it was out in the garden, and it had something to do with the family somehow. I'm looking it up. Was pointed.
Well, he just wanted a sundial.
Yeah, and what's it say? What is this world?
What is this world? Yeah.
I don't know.
And
sundial. I can't answer that question.
Well, he didn't pick that.
That's true. It just came back from...
Left it to the better thinkers and wherever it was made.
Yeah. I couldn't parse that out for myself. I thought it was going to play a more major role than just like a set piece, but I don't know. I don't understand.
What if I just asked Google?
I did, and nothing came up.
No, I'm gonna actually literally talk to Google.
Okay. My type of Google did not.
Okay.
Google food core.
It's gonna tell you why it's called a sundial, not about the book, but the thing.
Okay, Google. What is the point of the sundial in the book, The Sundial?
Tell time by the sun.
Oh. No.
No.
Google
stop.
Google didn't know.
I promise we've got Google on our phone and on.
Yeah, I don't understand. This is where I'm like, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm not supposed to get it. Maybe I just
also
missed it.
It's super of its time.
Maybe that's true.
Sundials were when I was a little kid. Yeah, everyone was like, "What's the purpose of the sundial? What's the point of the sundial?"
To tell time by the sun.
Yeah, I don't get. I think it was just meant to be like to portray like the passage of time. You know, like it was. I can't put it into words. It's like he wanted the sundial. His life passed on. Now his children have grown up. They're getting old. They're passing on. The next generation's coming up, and maybe it's just to be like you kind of pass on these things throughout the generations or something.
Okay, so must have missed this. I googled how does the sundial end? The two men brave the storm to carry Oriana's body to the sundial, where it is implied she will be swept away in the destruction.
Yeah.
And then all the players gather together to wait for the coming morning, and the novel ends. So maybe she did get her comeuppance by... I mean, she died and then she was just carried away.
But what does that have to do with the sundial? That's just where she was laid to rest.
Yes, but in a gold dress, so it's like she is the sun in the center of the universe.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
okay.
Her gold dress is the sun, on the sundial. Okay.
But she was next to the sundial.
Yeah.
Well, that's as far as they can carry her.
How about this? Shirley Jackson, the sundial. Reoccurring bafflement.
Reoccurring bafflement. There was a lot of bafflement in this book. Yeah, I don't know if I have a whole lot more to say about the book, but it was frustrating that I either didn't understand or wasn't meant to understand, and I don't like that.
Well, that's what I was wondering if I was going to come to this table and we were going to have like when you sit down in your English class and they're like, and the sundial was
I don't know.
Get it.
No, I was kind of hoping you would tell me.
I mean, I don't mind the ending because it's very much on brand for her.
Yes.
I I think I added this to my Audible library after we read her last book. It's a collection of short stories with the lottery in it.
Right.
And it opens with the lottery. But the pacing, it was a free audio.
Oh.
The pacing was like, as soon as they're done stoning the woman to death, the next story immediately started.
Oh.
It wasn't
That's
like,
very jarring.
like a breath. And then it was like, and then the townspeople were building a river. You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, the
It
next
just started
story
up.
started.
So
Like, not even just like a second.
many of the reviews I saw this calls this a true American Gothic novel. And I like this. It says, if the story appears unbelievable or too confusing, which is yes. It says, in Miss Jackson's telling, this is never an issue. Really? I kind of think it was. She achieves Coleridge's willing suspension of disbelief for the most grotesque, the most macabre elements. While you read, you believe. Maybe. I didn't.
There's nothing that...
I guess you just sort of accept that this is a horrible thing and this is just part of the story.
Well, I think it's definitely commentary. Like, it's because I think this book is very funny.
It is.
Because it's a commentary on belief. And choosing to, what we choose to believe and what we don't choose to believe. And people are choosing their point of view more often than not. But then they ridicule the other side. So, like, the true believers come in and they're like, we know when it's happening.
Oh,
the aliens
God.
are coming. Maybe they could use your law.
Yeah.
I mean, the side stories in this are so much more fun than anything.
In a movie because I think it would be so entertaining to watch.
See, I only got about halfway back through the book today. And when I was driving,
I forgot about the true believers. They already knew this was happening.
The story of the woman who may or may not have killed her family with the hammer. And so, like, it's just another form
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, this book is about family annihilation.
Yeah.
Too. Like destroying what we make, or being honest about what we destroy. Because, like, I guess she killed her son.
Yeah.
Because she never denies it. And then I guess the next generation killed her.
Yeah. I kind of I would rather have read the story about what's her name and who murdered her family with the hammer.
Yeah.
Like, that sounded interesting.
Yeah. And the way that, like, yeah.
So, after the entertainment, you may try to puzzle out the meaning. Is it a political fable on internationalism versus isolationism?
Yeah.
Is it a parable of the decay of the aristocracy?
Sure.
The answer is bound to vary. A novel such as this is kind of a literary Rorschach test. Basically, you see the answer you want to see.
I hate that.
This was, I will say, it
I mean, that's only 220 something. Though.
Yeah.
But that's so her.
Yeah.
So, to contrast the two novels that we've read of ours, I never felt like I had a good, even though it's about a place, I never felt like I had a good rooting in the setting of We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Okay.
That felt like very cloudy to me.
Okay.
Like, where is this place? Yeah.
Where are you? Why are you? Kind of. Maybe on a second take on it, I would get a better hold on it, which I'm getting from a second take on this. But I can't answer why the Sundial is.
I don't know. Why is it called that?
Calling this book a Rorschach is really good. But I think she did a better job of setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was easy to imagine this book.
So maybe better character development in her growth as a writer from 1958 to 1962, because the characters are very compelling in We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Yeah.
I cared about what was happening to them, even if they made me uneasy.
Yeah.
These characters were awful.
Yep. Hated them all.
But I think it's ridiculously funny.
Awful.
You're supposed to. I get it.
Yeah. In a way.
We should be worried when we meet the person who's like, oh, well, I love Mrs. Halloran. I think she was a good example of leadership.
My enjoyment of reading this book was in the same genre of why I read the Reddit comments. Because of the bad behavior of people.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, well, so it takes you outside of your point of view. That's interesting. Like,
but it's not really in a fun way, because
like, I did not have fun.
because it is fun to read about, like, terrible people doing terrible things, right? But these people are dumb.
Kevin found
They
a
are.
thread. Well, that's what's so terrifying is there's a lot of these people and they
Yeah,
have money and
that's true.
authority and control.
Excuse me.
I want to say it's
Which is maybe another one of her points.
Sure.
You know?
I want to say, well, it was 1958. Maybe it was just those people, but I'm really afraid that it's still relevant to people today.
Yeah,
No, I'm sure it
think
is.
People exist out here today.
But this book is just short of 70 years old. It's 65 years old. I think you could set this book now
Yeah.
and probably not even have to change the dialogue very much.
Funny,
That would be interesting.
Funny you should say that because this book was reissued. It was out of print for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was reissued in 2014. So clearly they knew, and maybe that was because they knew this Haunting of Hill House was going to be in production,
Yeah.
or something like that.
A renewed interest.
A
in
renewed
her.
interest, but
When did her movie
Yeah.
come out?
so yeah, I think it's interesting.
She's such a.
I liked how
like
she
I
developed
still
her
admire
characters.
her as a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think she did a bad job.
no,
You
I
just
just-
didn't enjoy it.
I just didn't enjoy it.
but I
Well,
think
that's
we
like me in that other book that we were talking about before, Lessons in Chemistry. Of like, it's a great book. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think so. That was in 4 years. She grew
Oh yeah.
from this book to the next book. So, yeah, and she is. I guess she was prolific. Interesting. She died in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
she
not
didn't-
long after.
Not long after.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The other ones. I think on my own, I'd like to read The Lottery.
There's
her-
a free audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll go to the library
It's
for that.
That's
it
like the
entertains
classic.
Me. It was her breakthrough story.
Mm-hmm.
It entertains me and is interesting every time I'm exposed.
It's
to
been
it.
I've read it, but it was a long time ago, so I should go back.
It's entertaining every time.
I'd be
Mhm.
a palate cleanser after
It's
this.
upsetting. Maybe. I don't know if you can cleanse your palate with short
No.
anything better.
No, not really.
Because I'm
Okay.
reminded. So, like, you know, when we read the last book with her, I was like gung ho. I watched the movie.
Yeah.
Of the book, I watched the movie, which was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
I watched her biographical movie, and then there's the book she was writing during that biographical movie, and it comes up in my reading list, but I just like the emotional energy to read her again.
Yeah.
So here's the weird thing. She died at the same age that Aunt Fanny was.
Oh, spooky. Supposedly that Aunt Fanny was.
Yeah,
Supposedly. Maybe Aunt Fanny was
I'm
older. Maybe she
only
wasn't.
48.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
Well,
Old enough not to bear children.
Maybe.
Just-
Maybe.
yeah,
Maybe.
a 48-year-old in 1958 was living a little different life than a
That's
48-year-old
true.
now.
That's true.
But she wasn't the drinker that most of the rest of the family was, it seemed.
Yeah, that's
Oh my gosh,
the use of
yeah.
alcohol actually I think is
Mm.
an interesting thread, which is I think what killed Shirley Jackson was her battle
Oh.
with alcohol. She was definitely not a teacher boy.
No, it said she was a victim of poor health and habits. So
That's
That's
code.
nice
That's a nice way to say it.
A victim of habits.
I'm not allowed to put that on death certificates. The registrar would be very mad at me.
Yeah, I'd be like, you gotta tell
We
me.
need to be specific.
Yeah. They'd be like, this no.
This is not death by nail biting.
No.
It's like,
Ugh,
It could happen.
that's
You get
terrifying.
an infection and
Oh,
you
come
know-
on. It's spooky season, I guess we can talk about it.
oh, okay.
Well, this was an interesting
This was an
pick.
interesting
Yeah.
pick.
I'm glad it wasn't any longer.
Yeah.
It didn't take me that long to listen to, but, it wasn't my favorite thing. I was very excited when I was done.
1.5 speed for life.
Yes. I started at 1.25 because at the beginning I was confused. Because it's
Yeah.
all of a sudden like, here's a bunch of people. And I was like, huh? And I had to go back and start it over. And then eventually I bumped it up
It's
to
better at
1.5.
2 times speed.
Okay.
Because you realize the confusion doesn't really clear up that much.
So the
Well, I
thing-
wanted to get an idea of like the family structure before I got into it,
Yeah.
which was confusing me. But
the thing I was most interested in coming back to the written book is how
And I
did
thought
she
you
write?
posted.
Well, because on the re-listening, I could be like, oh, okay, well that is was it maybe Mary Jane? You know? Gels.
Gels. Gels?
Yes.
Yeah, gels.
Gels.
But if I were reading that, I would have been like, my gels.
My gels.
My
Me and my
gels.
gels.
My gals.
The gels. Oh,
The
God, I hated her.
I just pictured her as a very loud, obnoxious woman.
I picture her as like the unsinkable Molly Brown, but the like obnoxious version of, right?
Yes,
But like that sort
exactly.
of bubbly energy.
Yeah, but only the annoying things. Well, listening, like her name, when I came across her the second time, Mrs. Willow, she just blows in the wind. Like, she goes with the flow of that's what I took from
Nice.
her naming.
Well, I'll say.
Like, now that I hear it, it's Augusta Willow. Like, it's not even subtle.
That's great.
Oh, like a gust of wind.
Yeah.
A gust of wind.
That's
Like,
hilarious.
I have a friend named Augusta, but like, this
Augusta
is real
Willow.
on the nose.
So I will
Shirley.
say this book was very engaging in the way it made you really hate the characters and want to keep. It kept you engaged enough to say, is something going to happen to these people? Because they are just the worst.
No, nothing happened to him except one of them.
One.
Yeah, except one.
Well,
Well,
and Fancy got a crown.
good for Fancy.
And that song from Reba McEntire kept ringing in my head. Fancy, this is your one chance.
Hey, what are we reading next?
Well, do you want to say what else we read this month?
Yes.
We talked last month about wanting to read Rebecca again, which I did.
Nice.
And then I was on a Daphne du Maurier kick because I read The Birds. And then I read Rebecca. And then I read Jamaica Inn.
Ooh, how was that? Because I've really only read Rebecca, and now I've also read The Birds.
Did you listen to The Birds?
Yes.
Wasn't it?
It
Did you have the Peter
fantastic.
Capaldi
Yeah.
version? It was so good.
Yeah.
James and I are going on a road trip, and we have like a couple hours in the car, and I was like, wait, I'm making you listen to it. It was so good.
Yeah.
The Jamaica Inn was not my favorite. It was fine. It's not as good as
Rebecca.
her others, and I started, My Cousin Rachel, but I haven't gotten very far into it yet, but I'm on a Daphne du Maurier kick right now.
Nice.
Jamaica Inn was fine.
Okay, I'm not going to race to that.
No, I wouldn't. Anybody else?
Yeah.
What'd you
I had
read?
another banner month.
Nice.
And I have a feeling next month is going to be really annoying. Maybe I should only give my highlights because I have so many late nights ahead.
Yes.
So I talked about the library app gives you a skip the line option, but you only get 7 days to finish whatever you borrowed.
Put the pressure on.
Yeah. So The Fraud by Zadie Smith. It is her 6th novel and the first one I have read.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys read anything of hers? Like, I've seen her name a lot, and it's very popular. Zadie Smith. So this is it's her take on a Dickensian style telling, and it's focused on this one author. I think his name is William Harris, who is a contemporary of Dickens and was actually like a more well-selling author than Dickens. And it comes in and out of his life from his youth to his his elder years, but more told from the point of view of his cousin's widow, and it's really well done. So Zadie Smith writes a lot about race and history, and it's just really, really well done. There's so much in it. I think it's a 12-hour audiobook, and I had to listen to it at 1.5 speed, and it's new enough that 1.5.
Oh, 1.5. I'm like 5.
No.
You can't even understand words.
Well, so there's so much happening at the beginning with in this where you meet so many people, and this book is too new. So when I Googled character lists, there was nothing.
Oh, that's hard.
So I had to slow it down, and every time there was a new character, I had to make a list for myself and write down their.
I almost did that with this book to sort out who was who.
Right, one more character, and I probably would have needed that for this book. But I'm interested in reading more of her books. The God of Good Looks by Brianne McIver, which I can't remember who recommended this, but it was like in another author's interview. She's like, this is the last good book I read, and I walked into it at the library. I'm like, oh, well, I will try that. Interesting story about a about Trinidad and Tobago and a fashion magazine and
Hmm.
its publication and the people who are behind it. And it's kind of like based in the frivolity of fashion and makeup, and yet it's a really deep story and a really interesting look into that place, which I don't know very much about.
Sounds interesting.
Idoru by William Gibson. I don't have much to say about this. Have you guys read William
Nope.
Gibson? Like renowned science fiction writer. Meh. The Birds. Or the Birds.
Yep.
I did not know it was The Birds.
The Birds.
Oh, duh, it's The Birds.
I mean, it's a completely different story than
It
the
is.
movie,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Because I was trying to find that on Hoopla. So maybe
It's
I need
a
to look
short
elsewhere.
story collection with another book that I can't remember the name of
Oh,
off the
okay.
top of my head.
I
But it
did
was
read
on.
I did listen to the dramatization of it.
Yeah, so good.
So I went like you're on a Daphne du Maurier kick.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a Lucy Foley kick.
Okay.
So she's behind The Hunting Party, The Guest List, and The Paris Apartment are her more recent novels.
Oh, okay.
They're all very popular. She is a British thriller writer, and I think I enjoyed all of them. She does a great job of developing a pretty big cast of characters and developing them all with depth.
Oh, good.
Oh.
So you're kind of,
That's
whether or
refreshing.
not you like them, you are invested in all of their outcomes. And her most recent book, The Paris Apartment, like the first two books are very similar in like you have this clean cut person who is like, I'm so great, and they're not really that great, and then something bad happens to them,
Right.
and they're sort of getting their just desserts.
Oh, I like that.
And so the payoff is really good. But in the third book, she puts on her head the missing girl story, and she puts a man missing, and his sister has to find him.
Mm.
And
well, that's a
it's
nice
really
take.
good.
For a
It's-
change.
I've heard a lot
That
of
is
people
really nice take.
recommend that book,
Yeah.
so.
And now I'm going back in history, and I'm reading one of her earlier novels, the Book of Lost and Found, which doesn't seem to be a thriller, more of a mystery maybe.
Mm.
But all the characters again are very dynamic, and I'm interested in what's going to happen to them next. And not all of her characters are likable; most of them are not. But I'm interested in what happens to them. I read a really cute graphic novel called Book Love, and it's by Debbie Tung, and it had things like how do you get all your reading time in? And it sort of was like the advice we give to new knitters of like carry a book with you all the time.
Yeah.
Carve out time. Make sure you have
Make
something
it a
with you all the
priority.
time.
Yeah.
And it had like a ton of like really cute things, like things that book lovers worry about, rainstorms, not having a book with them.
It is just like knitting and
uh,
crocheting. Yeah.
She Who Became the Sun. I think you would really like this, Karin.
I heard, did you
Shirley
recommend that
Parker
to me
Chan.
before?
No, I just stumbled on it, and I was wondering if you hadn't read it already. It was billed
Sounds familiar,
as,
but I don't think I did.
It was billed as Mulan meets the son of meets is it the son of, no, what is that called? Achilles.
The Song of Achilles?
The Song of Achilles. I wanted to say son. I'm like, that is not right. So it was billed in the description as Mulan meets the Song of Achilles.
Mm.
So it's like
That
a
sounds really
deeply
cool.
detailed historical telling of a girl
I'm typing
who
this in.
lives as a monk in the 13th century,
Oh, that is totally my form.
in the
I'm
14th
looking.
century, the 1300s, China.
That sounds so
It was
good.
great. And then this next book is like, there's another book. I forget what it's called. It's like He Who Burned the World or something like that.
She Who Became the Sun.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Really, really good. I think everybody would like that. And my absolute favorite book that I read this month. This is my second go at it because I borrowed it physically from the library and couldn't finish it. Inciting Joy by Ross Gay. This book is the most beautiful thing nonfiction book I have ever read.
Mm.
And it's about like walking through life with joy and finding joy. And the first essay is someone asks him like, how can you write about joy with all this going on? And the person gestures with their arms wide and indicate the whole wide world. And he's a black man, so a lot of times people ask him the same thing of like, how can a black man write about joy?
Right.
Exactly.
And so he writes this beautiful essay about having a party where you invite your sorrow with you. And you and your sorrow build the guest list. And you're like, of course I'll invite my family and friends. And then you start thinking about, well, what about the mailman and the clerk at the grocery store? And they all bring the potluck and their sorrow. And by the end, everybody's having this beautiful party with their sorrow and being able to find joy with their sorrows.
Cool.
And every bit of the book is so beautifully told like that. But the opening essay is so fantastic. I laughed. I cried.
Nice.
I would read it again. I'm thinking of inflicting it on my husband.
Inciting.
Inciting. I thought that was an EN word.
I have to read all of his books. He has the Book of Delights and the Book of More Delights. So he's an essayist, a poet, writer.
Nice.
Professor.
How do you spell inciting? Because clearly I'm not spelling it right.
INCITING.
That would be why. It's an
Ross.
IN.
She has like short, sweet, rhythmic name to remember.
Nice.
And my son was like very annoyed with me while I had this on driving him to school, and he's like, you and your liberal, warm fuzzies. And I'm like, this guy is a former football player. I think he mentioned somewhere in there that he was a Navy SEAL. He's a former skater boy. Like, this is actually not someone who I probably would have ever hung out with. Yeah. So I'm excited to find that we have common ground in the way we think about the world. He does have a
lot of other books that look really good. Yeah. I think I will just follow him.
Yeah. Which led me to a book I think you're reading, but I'm only halfway through, or that you have read in the past, Braiding Sweetgrass. Have you guys read that?
Not me.
No?
No, but I know of it because it sounds familiar.
It's around. So yeah. I will talk about that when I finish it.
Okay.
That book's making me cry a lot.
Oh.
But it's good. It's good cries.
What'd you read, Karin?
Okay, so I've got my little app out to remind me, because went on Hoopla, continued in our court series, which we'll talk about later. I think I'm still on book 3 because I paused for a bit.
Book 3 can be a bit of a slog.
Frost and Starlight. I just wasn't in the mindset.
That's 3.5.
You're right at the right time of the year almost to enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, I started a series that I'd wanted to start called Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. And it's a trilogy, Binti and Binti Home and Binti the Night Masquerade.
Binti?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And that was really good. She's from this small village in Africa and in the land of Kush, and most of the Kush people are very they're very into technology. They're the well-known, the educated people. And her village, they keep to themselves. No one ever leaves. But she has a skill for balancing harmony. Usually with technology, and they have technology. They just don't ever go anywhere with it, and they don't connect with the outside world.
It's like Black Panther.
And she wants to do something with her life. She wants to learn and do more. She wants to leave because she wants to go to the stars. And then on a neighboring planet, there is a university where she gets to go to university.
Oh, so this is not on Earth to start with.
It starts with Earth and it comes back to Earth.
Okay.
But on the way, everyone in her class are killed by aliens except for her.
Oh.
And it's because in her village you never go out without this clay on your skin and your hair. It's what covers you and keeps you. You have clothing also, but you just are naked without it. And it has a different quality, different smell, and anyway, there's a whole lot more to the story, how she comes back, but it's the Binti trilogy is really, really good. I went through that, and I'm loving Hoopla.
The library app's so exciting, guys.
They're
really feeding my manic tendencies. But like in a good way.
So I started a series by L.L. McKinney, A Blade So Black. I forget what book 2 was, but book 3 came out, I guess, end of last month. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's finally here. And so it's the third of the trilogy called A Crown So Cursed. And it's a very modern telling of a modern version of Alice in Wonderland being extra dimensional within our existence, and very and of course the knight always having to, in this case Alice knows how to wield a figment blade and swords, and she's kind of a badass, and So the book in the third book, there is a heritage that she did not know about.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
That the grandma was who would say all these weird, funny things. There's a reason. So anyway,
kind of like Moana.
Yeah.
Anywho, so that was three, four books
Nice.
plus this one. Oh, and I started just this week. I started Out There Screaming. I've got it's so good, but it's a compilation of short stories from some of my favorite authors, and it's edited and put together by Jordan Peele.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Like, oh, Jordan Peele, you are scary.
But not all the stories they're not all gruesome. I mean, there is the one about the ex-girlfriend who is getting teased by the new girlfriend who's like, come over and bring some money. And I've got your boyfriend's heart. No, quite literally, it's on the table.
Oh.
But it's still beating. You know, it's still working. He's doing okay. You know.
Oh,
and she has an opportunity to take out the new girlfriend, and she could do the right thing, put the heart back, but she goes, "Why? But he broke up with me, and I've got his heart now. I can make things better." So there's that kind of like a weird. Some of it's just weird. So it was all good. Anyway,
I'm not gonna find her. Have you guys heard of the Demon Life Coach?
No.
I thought she goes by Miss Kitty, but that might not be right.
I don't know this person.
She is a fantastic. This really belongs more in like What Are You Obsessed With, Anne? But since you brought up that story, she loves to traumatize men who bother her.
Ooh, I like that.
So she will say things like, a man will come up to her and be like, "Ooh, can I take you out sometime?" And she'll be like, "What's your blood type?" Why? Well, type O kidneys really are better on the back of the head. Some guy says, "Do you have a boyfriend?" Not anymore. And she is also cute as a button, so
yeah.
It's kind of really, really delightful. I
like that.
Tag you guys in something that comes across my feed.
Okay.
What are you reading next?
I went back and forth about a couple different options, but I don't think either of you have read this. We're gonna read Weyward by Amelia Hart.
Oh,
okay.
I don't know anything about it.
So I've got the little blurb here. W-E-Y-W-A-R-D.
W-E-Y.
It says
W-A-R-D.
Yes. It says, I am a wayward and wild inside. 2019, under the cover of darkness, Kate flees London for a ramshackle wayward cottage, inherited from a great aunt she barely remembers. With its tumbling ivy and overgrown garden, the cottage is worlds away from the abusive partner who tormented Kate, but she begins to suspect that her great aunt had a secret, one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. 1619. Alpha is awaiting the trial for the murder of a local farmer who was stampeded to death by his herd. As a girl, Alpha's mother taught her magic, a kind not rooted in spellcasting but in deep knowledge of the natural world. But unusual women have always been deemed dangerous, and the evidence for witchcraft is set out against Alpha. She knows it will take all of her powers to maintain her freedom. And then it says 1942, as World War II rages, Violet is trapped in her family's grand crumbling estate. Straitjacketed by societal convention, she longs for the robust education her brother receives, and for her mother, long deceased, who was rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only traces Violet has of her are a locket bearing the initial W and the word Weyward scratched into the baseboard of her bedroom. Weaving together the stories of three extraordinary women against 5 centuries, Amelia Hart's Weyward is an enthralling novel of female resilience in the transformative power of the natural world. It has been on my to-be-read list for a while now, and I was like, oh, I could pick that book. I haven't done that one yet. So
this looks and sounds fantastic.
Yay.
Well chosen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, in the meantime, if you guys have read the Sundial and have answers to our questions, please tell us. We would really love to hear. Please answer.
Pretty please.
If you know, we want you to tell
Yes.
us, please. Or you just say, no, I don't know, and we can commiserate together.
Yeah.
What was happening?
And
What is this world?
we also want to hear like what you guys have been reading. If you have recommendations for us, we would love to hear it. So you can always comment on our Instagram or send us a message or whatever. We would like to hear from you. And until next time, I guess that's it. Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading.
Strings Unraveled is a production of Strings and Things Studio with Anne Leckervin-Cazzoli, Kaity Von Rader-Fraker, and Karin Wilmoth. Recorded and edited by Kaity Von Rader-Fraker. Find us online at stringsandthingsstudio.com or on Facebook or Instagram at Strings and Things Studio. You can email us at stringsandthingsinfo@gmail.com.